and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm your cheap, bloody paperback Mike.
And last but not least, it's Colton.
And we are back, and we are Gill-less this evening. So I think we will hear
and
from her.
What does that mean?
I mean...
What does that mean?
What does that mean,
the boys,
guys?
The boys.
That's right. Rowan has learned to put his boys' sound drop into the soundboard so I can play it.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Yeah, so she did, send us something, so I'm sure we'll play it later on. But, you know what? You know what, Tenebrae? This movie's for the boys to talk about. If you're murdering women, the boys talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just get into what we've been consuming, because I'm just rambling on to this intro. It's just mumbles, really. So, what have we been consuming? What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What have we been reading? All that good stuff. The boys! Yeah, fuck yeah. Mike, we'll start with you.
Start with me. Okay. So I've had a couple of rewatches in the last... Actually, yeah, it was a couple of rewatches and a couple of first-timers. I guess I'll just kind of like go through... Well, okay, so I watched... Of course, I always have my trash movie nights every few weeks. And we watched this, like... I want to say it was awful, but it actually wasn't that bad. TV movie. I think it was Canadian... from 1993, but it really had the energy of like 1987 and the budget of 1987.
Nice.
It was called Hidden Fears, and it's this like bizarre movie about this woman who her and her kids and her husband are like at a takeout, like I guess it's something like McDonald's in the like country, and these drunk rednecks go in while her husband's in there buying all their food and like hold the place up, and her husband like gets lippy with them, and then they like come and kill him. And then like years later they decide that they're gonna go after her, and it like leaves this like weird rain of carnage while they're trying to like get to her and kill her. It's really not great, but it's also not the worst thing I've ever seen. And this is the kicker. This is actually why we picked it, because the star is Meg Foster, who we all love as a queen and is in several Rob Zombie movies, including The Amazing Lords of Salem.
Do you know if she's the floating head on the poster? I had to assume so, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
She's got crazy eyes, so they're like
so when
clear.
I just glanced at it from afar, I thought it was Saoirse Ronan. Before I remembered it was 1993.
Oh, yeah. Saoirse Ronan was probably a glimmer in her father's eye then.
Exactly.
I don't remember when she was born, but I feel like it was after 1993.
Yeah, I would think so.
I can kind of see that, though.
I was just glancing at it, right? I Googled the
maybe.
movie, and then I was like, oh my God, is that Saoirse Ronan?
Yeah, so Meg Foster, that's why we watched it. And for a movie you're watching while you're just like getting drunk, essentially, it was fine. It did its job, which was we wanted trash that we could kind of like make commentary about the whole time and not miss anything. And I also watched for the first time a movie that kind of changed me. So I've never watched a Stanley Kwan movie, and a lot of people like I know have been like, oh, he's kind of like precursor to like Wong Kar-wai and blah blah blah, and I was like, I'm gonna watch, and I never like, for whatever reason, like I just never watched any of his movies, and one night I was like, fuck, I'm right in the mood, a melodrama, I gotta watch this, and so I watched one called Rouge, which is kind of a romance movie and kind of a horror movie. because it's about this couple in the 30s who she's like a courtesan and he's from like a rich family, and they fall in love, but like his family disapproves, so they decide that they're going to commit suicide and go to hell together. So they can live in hell together forever. And they do it. And how is it they do it? Oh, yeah, they overdose on opium because they're just like doing opium the whole time.
Okay.
And she dies, but he actually doesn't. He lived. So she comes back like 50 years later as a ghost looking for him. And runs into this like newspaper guy because she's trying to put out a personal ad to find him.
Oh, God.
And so then this newspaper guy and his girlfriend are like, they're like, oh, it's a ghost. And they like are helping her plot to like find her lover. And it sounds really stupid, but it's really, really, really good. And like, it's beautifully shot. Oh my God. It's a gorgeous movie. It like changed me. I'm obsessed. I need to get the Criterion Blu-ray of it. Like, Stanley Kwan is my new, like, I'm a Stanley Stan. I'm a Stanley, if you will. So yeah, I highly recommend if anybody wants like a nice ghosty movie, something maybe like if you want to watch something on Valentine's Day that's like kind of romantic and kind of spooky, definitely go with that. And so I also watched on 4K, of course, The Faculty, which we've done on this show before, and we all know me and Ro love, classic from the 90s. It's been a few years, and I was like, okay, how good is this going to look on a 4K disc? It looks beautiful. It holds up well. It's really great when you watch it with someone who hasn't seen it before, and you like know that like all these actors that they love are going to pop up in it. And
it's crazy, like
shit
how
like
wild that cast is for like people from the 90s or like people that are going to become bigger and bigger. It's probably like the best ensemble cast, I'd say, out of all those like 90s teen. Because like Scream's kind of, you know, like Nev had already been on
Party of Five.
Party of Five, and like that was like, you know, people that had been in TV and stuff. Where this is just like banner of a cast.
Yeah, it was like right out of the gate, and everybody in it like either went on to become like way more famous or like had insane careers in like indie films and stuff like that. So
sadly, some of them
it's
ended
wild.
up being in like really bad movies like Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I know, right? Like just awful 9-hour long abortions. No, I'm kidding.
I hate you guys.
That was a lot of fun to rewatch. The 4K looks great. It was weird finding it out in the wild and it's like out of stock everywhere online if you're in Canada. So definitely if you see it and you're a fan, pick it up. I don't know what the extras are like. I don't think there's a lot, but like the movie looks really good. So, you know, if you're into like physical media and you like that movie, definitely check it out. Also, I just really have to say, like, I already said this, but I appreciate it more, I think, every time I see it. It's got that like, it's kind of like a Diablo Cody effect in a way, but it was like actually the Kevin Williamson effect because he was first. Where like as soon as you hear the like 2 minutes of dialogue, you know who wrote it.
Yeah.
Like the credits hadn't even come up, and one of the people I was watching it with was like, this is a Kevin Williamson movie, isn't it? And I was like, God damn, like literally the credits haven't even rolled and you already know. Like, yeah, it's so, you know, I love that. And some of his movies did not age well. And we won't talk about him being on Scream 7, which we're not going to go see. But anyway, big oof. Yeah. So anyway, loved rewatching The Faculty.
What a
it's
time
beautiful.
to be Robert Rodrigo in the 90s. Just
oh my God,
from Dusk Till Dawn, The Faculty, and Spy Kids, just killing it.
Spy Kids, like literally banking Spy Kids.
Desperado, obviously, also, but
yeah, also Desperado, Minor Detail, Planet Terror, Minor Detail. Like, I mean, that was like 2008, but still, yeah, and that was like such a banger for him, and I think he like doesn't care too much for it. I think it was more of like director for hire sort of thing, but like he worked with a lot of those people multiple times. Like, come on, let's be real. And so the same night I also watched, so I went from watching this stunning like 4K disc of The Faculty to popping in The Way It Was Meant to Be Watched. Again, a favorite of this podcast, OG Evil Dead.
Nice.
on VHS on a tiny 19-inch VCR TV combo
Nice.
in a basement, and it did not disappoint. I literally felt like that's how I first watched it when I was a kid, like on a tape in my friend's basement. You know, like I was like, this is literally it, right? Like,
I'm going to see it in the theater tomorrow.
Ooh,
We're recording on
nice.
Tuesday. It'll be my first time seeing it in the theater. I'm excited.
I'm actually jealous, so I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it next episode. But yeah, so when it's funny.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think the first time I watched it was I was working at a hotel at the time on the front desk, and me and the overnight staff, we just put it on a laptop, just pirated copy of Evil Dead. That's the first time
hilarious.
I saw it. Yeah. Terrible lighting,
again,
obviously, at the front desk of a hotel, but it was still
like just a fluorescent nitmare.
Yeah.
It's just like fluorescent bulbs on the screen, and like that's all you could see. But like honestly,
the glare was bad.
Yeah, it was probably better than my first watch, which was, you know, again on a shitty ass tape on this tiny TV in a basement. So
yeah.
But like interesting trivia about that particular viewing. When we first did The Evil Dead on the show, it was because it was a viewer pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually watched it on VHS with the person who years ago was like the first 6 months or a year that we were doing this, who made that pick.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was such a cool full circle moment. I was like, oh, I can't wait to tell Rowan that like I watched it with Ashton, who was the one who
I thought
picked
it was
it
Ashton's
for us.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I love this. So that was a lot of fun. Just watching it on a tape, like not like a good big TV and like, you know, some like cool refurbished, like really good VCR. It's just one of those shitty TV VCR combos that is trash and somehow still works. Just
I hope you had to use the tracking button a lot all throughout it. And
unfortunately we didn't. It was sadly in decent shape. So you didn't get the true VHS experience, but you know, it was good enough for 2025.
I like knowing that this entire time Colton was just like with these fuckers and their VHS tapes. What kind of idiot?
Yeah,
no,
I've never used the tracking because like essentially I was too young to be fucking around with that when it was an issue.
Yeah.
And then once I got older, it was like, it's just DVD. I mean, I had the combo VHS DVD players and whatnot, but and I remember like having to rewind the tapes and like the tape rewinder, put it in and like have to rewind it all the way back manually, which was annoying. But yeah, I don't think I've ever used the tracking buttons myself.
I mean, you really only need to use that if the tape is in like bad condition. So you must have just been lucky. You must have been lucky. That's all I'm saying. And the last movie I watched was, hilariously, I brought him up a minute ago when talking about Rouge. I decided that I really wanted to be emotionally devastated, but also like cream myself from beauty, and so I was like, I'm gonna watch a Wong Kar-wai movie. So I watched one that I don't rewatch all the time, like, you know, In the Mood for Love and like fucking Chungking Express and all them. It's like, you know, that's like you put it on all the time, Happy Together. But I decided to watch one I haven't watched in a million years, and it was Days of Being Wild from 1990. Oh my God. Fuck. What a movie. Like, you can't even describe the plots of his movies because it's like nothing happens, but everything happens. It's like somebody literally like stubs a cigarette out in the ashtray, and that's like somehow devastating and like completely changes the plot of the movie. Or like, you know, whatever, like they look out the window and see somebody walking by, and it's like that completely alters the course of their life. So it's just like beautiful people all falling in love with each other, all being, you know, ships passing in the night and being with the wrong person. And then there's this weird moment near the end where it like turns into a fucking Tarantino movie for like 45 seconds. And they're just like, there's this shootout. And it's just such a beautiful movie. If you like him and you've never seen that movie, definitely watch it. It has a lot of his like stable of actors that he uses all the time. So it's just all like just the hottest people ever filmed. That's all I'm saying. And I did, of course, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get through this movie and not cry. And then of course I was like, bam, 10 minutes before it was over, I was like, fuck. Here I am weeping. Yes, that's really mostly what I've been up to other than gaming. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of gaming as well. There's a new game out called Blueprints, which essentially I think it's the highest rated game of the year. It's like a first person puzzle game that essentially you inherit a mansion from your great uncle, and kind of the goal of the game is to plot your way to room 46 in a room 45 room mansion. So it's just kind of like this puzzle game, a fun conceit. Just you can kind of do like endless runs. So I've just been eating it up. I'm probably got like, I would say 40 hours in that over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, just kind of chatting with the people in Discord. We're all kind of playing it at the same time, each like solving little puzzles and whatnot. But it's great. It's a very good game. But in addition to that, it's been mostly just kind of like theater watches for me. Rowan and I both checked out Sinners this weekend, and we both really enjoyed it. You know, you can hear all of our thoughts.
Usually I'm like, I'm not saying anything because we review it, but like, just go see Sinners. That's all you need to
do. That's the thing. I was just saying we both really enjoyed it. We got the episode out. You can listen to it. We're not going to say anything I don't think that you've seen everywhere else on the internet, considering I think it's like one of the highest rated movies of all time.
And it's like the number one movie or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
This week? Yeah,
it's huge. And yeah, the movie's really good. So check it out and go hear our thoughts on it. It's definitely worth doing so.
Fun fact, I was going to go see that today, but I couldn't because I have to do this.
Because we're recording, yeah.
Yeah,
Cheapy Tuesday as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go at some point.
Oh, I will. I have a day off in the middle of next week, so maybe.
Yeah.
Nice. I think basically everything I've watched other than the next thing Rowan has seen, so I don't know, maybe we'll get his thoughts when I'm going through as well. But the first thing I saw a couple weeks back now was Warfare. This is A24's new movie directed by Alex Garland and a vet of the Iraq War, Ray Mendoza. So I was super apprehensive going into this one, specifically because of Civil War last year, where they were kind of marketing it around like this political unrest in the U.S. in an election year. And like when the movie came out, it didn't really have much to say, in my opinion. It was essentially, look how important photojournalists are, which, you know, I agree with. But the fact that it was marketed all around, like essentially like, what does it mean to be a good American? And, you know, these sorts of ideas, and showing a lot of like iconography that was kind of like certain sides were using. I thought it was just kind of really cowardly of Alex Garland and A24 not to really say anything with the movie. So with this one, I was like, oh, good. This is going to be a jingoistic, American propaganda piece. Like, how are you going to have a vet involved? And it's kind of not that, right? But I was happy to report that at least like what I saw in the movie, outside of just showcasing some like military competencies, like, you know, like call outs or people like getting in formation, or like the effect of like when a jet flies by close to the ground, you know, I think the movie largely is more so like a descent into hell for like these soldiers. And it doesn't really come out like glorifying the military, I didn't feel, outside of like, once again, just like people being somewhat trained. And even like in the squad, there's members that aren't well trained, or, you know, it's their first day on the job, or, you know, they fuck up some things pretty majorly. So it's not like everyone's perfect by no means. The first 20 minutes or so, I think, is just largely from the viewpoint of a sniper scanning over this town, because essentially kind of the setup of the movie is just they go into a town, they pick a house to set up in because they believe it's going to have like a good tactical vantage point. They kick the whole family out that lives in the house and kind of just hoards them in a room, you know, basically takes it over, and essentially all hell breaks loose after, you know, them kind of being there for a day and just scanning the surrounding area. It's incredibly tense, lots of really good sound work, probably has the craziest jump scare I've seen in a movie in a long time, especially since, like I said, the first 20 minutes or so is just like a scope scanning around with like people in the house basically being like, this is boring, like our life sucks. It wound up being good by the end of it. I think it's not really a spoiler to say that obviously some of the soldiers make it out alive, obviously, after sustaining heavy casualties and injuries and whatnot. But I like that kind of the mission itself. They never really got anything tangible out of it. They basically just left like a trail of bloodshed and destruction in their wake. And kind of ending the movie on that sort of note where like the pointlessness of it all, it kind of served as like a microcosm, I think, of like how a lot of people view the Iraq War nowadays. So even if the movie wasn't like emphatically saying it with its whole chest, I think it's like if you're watching it from the point of view where you're thinking like, hey, there might be something critical to say here, you'll get it from there. And if not, you'll very much get like, that is a absolutely hellish existence for everyone involved in this conflict on this day. It's you know, it's like horrifying. So yeah, I'm glad that it didn't wind up being like toothless, like Civil War, or like this glorified America, fuck yeah movie like American Sniper, which is just, you know, terrible in my opinion. So yeah, if you want something that's a little bit, I would say more grounded or more realistic, like maybe like what one of these firefights would have been like back in 2006, maybe check out Warfare. Yeah, I don't even know if it's playing in like large formats or anything anymore, but like the sound in particular was kind of like the big point of the movie that I was like, oh yeah, it's probably worth checking out in theaters. Other than Warfare, I saw Drop. If you've been to the theaters, I think for the past 4 months, you've likely seen or at least heard of this movie because the trailer was just in front of everything. It follows a single mother who's on her first date in years, and then she starts receiving a series of threatening airdrops to her phone that essentially is threatening herself, her date, her son at home, and she kind of has to try and figure out who's behind these drops and see if she can make, you know, if they can all make it out alive. And this was one we initially were going to cover on Now Slaying because it's a Blumhouse production.
Christopher Landon.
Rowan and I, Christopher Landon, yeah, it was the sort of thing I was like, okay, it's shaping up, maybe it'll be a horror, but it's just this straight up kind of high concept thriller. It's not really a horror movie whatsoever, and Rowan and I were both kind of like didn't have a whole lot to say on it, so we just decided not to cover it in the end. But as a thriller, it does a good enough job of kind of consistently misdirecting the audience of who is the person behind the drops. It has a couple of solid performances, especially when they have to handle some like really outlandish material kind of to sell this concept. It does go completely off the rails in its third act and almost turns into an action movie, but overall, it's probably a good date night movie, but not necessarily something I'd, you know, recommend you rush out in theaters to see. Rowan, you also saw Drop?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I think if you watch this, like, on Netflix, you probably wouldn't be, like, angry. You're like, sweet. Like, you know, this was a good way to waste an hour and 20 minutes or whatever. But, yeah, it's definitely not, like, a rush to the theater to see it. It was, you know, like, yeah, I mean, everything you said. It's just basically, you know, like a cute little whodunit that, although I did look back at some of the promo for it afterwards, and the words horror were directly used in the marketing of this film. So they were definitely trying to con us, horror people.
Well, with Blumhouse's involvement, they're using horror in the marketing. You know, we were all expecting it to be a little bit gorier or have a little bit more to it than what it is, which is essentially two people sitting in a classy restaurant trying to figure out who's sending threatening text messages, basically, right? So it's not exactly riveting stuff. The last thing I checked out, not in theaters, but at home, is the new season of Black Mirror, which largely what I'd say is that it's another season in the style of the Netflix Black Mirrors, meaning that it has more episodes than the first two seasons, but largely they're of a lesser quality. Or, you know, you might get a couple of good ones throughout the bunch. Basically, I think there was two standouts in my opinion. I don't know if you've seen them all, Rowan, yet.
I have. I didn't log the last one, but I did see it.
Okay. So my two standouts is the first episode, Common People, which is kind of like a play on subscription services, about how nowadays in life we sign up for a subscription service, we think we're getting all these bells and whistles and features, and then they keep adding tiers, and essentially what you're paying for is getting worse and worse, but the prices are going up. And it kind of does it in a very clever way of where obviously the subscription service is very important to this person's life, and of course in the Black Mirror style, it winds up being pretty bleak by the end. And then the other episode I think was a standout is the penultimate episode, Eulogy, starring Paul Giamatti, which is essentially this idea of in the future, funerals can have this kind of this digital experience where people can kind of transplant their own ideas or like important parts of this person's life. So everyone can kind of have this like communal experience of like a full three-dimensional picture of who this person was at like different stages in their life. And essentially it follows Paul Giamatti's character as a person that he was involved with in his, I think, mid-20s, passes away much later in life, but he's kind of like having to address their relationship, but also kind of the shortcomings of their relationship, and maybe he wasn't the greatest person to that person in the time, and kind of discovering that throughout his memories and whatnot. So I thought that was definitely the best one. But yeah, all in all, it was an okay season. I kind of binged it over a day and a half. What I will say is USS Callister, I think it's their first direct sequel. what was it, like Into Infinity or something like that. I love the original USS Callister back in 2022, I think is when it came out. But I didn't rewatch it before checking this out, and I think I probably should have rewatched it. There was a lot of stuff when I was watching it I just didn't understand, like who these characters were, or how they related to one another, or exactly even how everything played out in the end of it. So I think there was a lot of little reveals or returns or cameos and whatnot that I just didn't really get. So it was a little bit more boring than I think if you're a diehard fan of Black Mirror, or or at least have seen USS Callister in recent memory. But Rowan, what were your thoughts on Black Mirror as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have the exact same two standouts. Was Common People I really loved. I mean, I love Rashida Jones. She's in that one.
Okay.
And Eulogy was also my big standout. I thought it was good. I did also really enjoy the Plaything, which was the one right before Eulogy. Mm-hmm. I like that one, and shout out, you can download the Thrones game on your mobile phone.
Okay.
Yeah, so shout out to all my Thrawn people out there. And, the USS Callister one, I did remember most of what happened in the first thing. I just, this one I thought was kind of rough because, it's an hour and a half long episode.
It's feature length. Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like they probably could have just made this like an hour long. I just felt like it would, because that original episode like did so well. And I mean, I remember when all the marketing came out, I had a t-shirt. They used to sell like t-shirts and hats, and I think you can still buy them around. Like Target was selling them, like USS Callister stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so, I obviously they're like, oh, people love this. So, and I just, I think like many things, too much of something can be a bad thing. I was impressed because I kept saying, because, they kind of wait till the end. I mean, the big question for me was like, is Jesse Plemons going to come back? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, he might be a little too big for this now. Obviously, I'm sure people will be happy. And although, I mean, get that bag. I'm sure it's Netflix. I'm sure they paid $1 million. Although I have to say, overall, I thought it was a weaker season. I actually I know you weren't a huge fan of last season. That was more horror.
I wasn't. There was only, I think, one standout for last year.
I thought that was still better than this one. And I mean, it's really hard. The British seasons are just so good.
Completely different quality.
Yeah, so it's really hard to to compare them to the original one. But I thought this was just kind of whatever.
But yeah, that's it for me, Rowan. So fill us in on what else you've been consuming.
Yeah, so I'm looking here, not much more. So I did check out The Guilty from 2021 with that was the American remake, the one I watched, which Letterboxd told me I was a fool for watching this before I had watched the original one. But I was just looking for something.
I haven't seen the original one either, dude, and I watched this, and I thought it was pretty good back in the day when it came out.
You know what? I thought it was pretty good. Jake Gyllenhaal. It was one of those movies that it was like, I was at work. It was like 3:30, 4 in the morning. I'm like, I specifically looked up 90-minute movies, which I do enjoy. Netflix has like a list of these are movies you can crush in 90 minutes or less. Because, I figure something like that's probably not going to necessarily need my full attention, and I can just kind of, play my royal match or whatever, and I've got it playing. And this was good enough. I was like, I kind of need to pay attention to this because this is all about the subtleties of what's going on in the phone calls and in the background. They don't really, this is one of those movies that's not telling you what's happening. You kind of got to sparse out. You don't really even know what's going on till the end of it. But I thought it was really good. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was pretty good in this. So there's some good Jake Gyllenhaal yelling at people scenes. So you won't be disappointed in that. I just love.
Sorry. Have you seen the movie The Vast of Night by any chance?
No.
It's like a sci-fi horror thing from a few years ago. Just when you were talking about the idea of not seeing a lot, but it being conveyed like through phone calls and whatnot. Yeah. The Vast of Night, it takes place in a little small town, and essentially it's where there might be an alien abduction or an alien sighting, at least. And essentially a lot of it plays out in like the switchboard operators place. And it's really interesting. There's lots of really long sustained takes of essentially like the operator getting bits and pieces of what's happening and breaking out throughout town, but she's constantly having like switch the lines and get back to people and whatnot. And it just I think that also features like a radio station. So a lot of it plays out in the switchboard operator, in the radio station, and then just a couple of characters kind of milling about. But yeah, it's really solid.
Check that out. Yeah.
Wait, what was that called?
The Vast of Night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to write that down and check that out. That sounds my style. What may not be my style is, as every parent, I think the last couple weeks, I, got forced maybe to go to the theater, check out a Minecraft movie.
Chicken Jockey.
Yeah, the rumors are true. I was there. We went to a showing at like 3:30 in the afternoon, so pretty much right after school, we went directly from there to the theater. You know, my kid is, well, by the time this episode comes out, she'll basically be 10. And she was probably the oldest person there.
Oh, wow.
And even these little kids just yelling shit at the screen. They knew everything going on. I thought it was like an interesting experience because Minecraft's like a little, I feel like it's like Pokemon. Like I kind of miss Pokemon. That was like kind of right when I was getting too old for it.
Oh, I think Minecraft is like 10 years after Pokemon.
But that's what I mean. Like this also is like out of my like prime gaming time. So like I never experienced this nor is I've played Minecraft. I literally played it today with my daughter, and it's not my cup of tea. I'm not really into like building shit and combining shit. I'm not into that. It's too complicated for my old mind. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny because all us adults there with our children, and it's like one movie I'm not even mad about people talking through because it was literally just every set of people there, their kids trying to explain to the adults what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then we're all just kind of nodding. We're like, oh, yeah, okay. But, I don't know. Like, it's not good. I wasn't, like, offended that it wasn't that bad, I guess. I mean, I give it a 2-star on Letterboxd. Like, the kids enjoy it. You know what? Let the kids have their fun. They seem to love it. I know Nev said, on our scale, she'd give it a yay. It wasn't a slay. It was just a yay.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
I think she said she found like the first part kind of boring, and she liked the later on parts.
I would agree with her that they spend probably 20 to 25 minutes in this movie setting up outside of the Minecraft world. And even as somebody who is not a Minecraft fan, like, why even bother with this sort of movie? Just get the people into the Minecraft world. What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. The setup was just like really odd. Like, it was kind of depressing. Like the sister taking care of the brother, and I was really confused because at first I thought the sister was only like 15, and then she's like working as like a social media person for a potato company. I was just like, whatever, man. I thought Momoa was funny. I got a couple chuckles out of it. At least the outfits were kind of funny.
Did you like the part where him and Jack Black are 69ing, flying through the air?
You know what? I did think, I was like, it's kind of weird that there's like a few joke, like, I'm used to like kids movies having like adult jokes in them, but I was like, these are like aren't even subliminal jokes. They're just like shove your face in my junk. And I don't know, the kids were laughing, so they obviously thought it was pretty funny. Another thing I got to watch, when was it? I think the 16th or 17th, it was like National Canadian Film Day. So I was trying to find something to watch, and I landed on Frankie Frico.
Oh, I've heard of that. That's by, is it Psycho Gorman?
The Psycho Gorman guy.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised that I have never picked Psycho Gorman, because Psycho Gorman is a banger.
That's a Rowan pick.
It's a bang. Like, to me, it's like one of the best Canadian horror movies ever. Like, it's so good.
Do you like Turbo Kid? That's kind of
love
a similar
Turbo
vein.
Kid. I love Turbo Kid. But yeah, so this is his newest film. I think it came out last year. Yeah, 2024. This is more in the style of like Gremlins. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's like rock and roll, weird looking gremlins that destroy your house and stuff that you conjure by calling like one of those late night 1-800 numbers. And it's like the ad's really weird for it. It looks real sexy, and it's got like the sexy voice, but it's like, do you want to get freako? And then it's like just these rock and roll guys look like they're like from the Sex Pistols or something. And it was pretty good. I mean, Psycho Gorman, I think, is actually really, really well done. The puppetry in this I thought was really funny, but this is nowhere near on a scale of Psycho Gorman. Like, I would imagine the budget for this was like half, maybe less. But you know what? It was fun. It gave me a lot of Full Moon Entertainment vibes, like Evil Bong, stuff like that. It had that kind of vibe. But I watched that, and then all I have left really to report, I finally finished Holland. Because I forgot to pick it back up. And I mean, Colton, you talked about that a couple episodes ago there.
And a Minecraft movie. You're just, repeating what I said a couple weeks back.
And I have the same thoughts. Holland, I mean, it was one of those things like, cool. I watched on streaming. It was a direct to streaming. I'm glad it wasn't a theater movie. Like, I probably would have been pretty pissed to pay money for it. It was, I guess what was going on at the beginning of the movie. And I was like, okay, here we go. Exactly what I thought. So, yeah, that was fine. And then, honestly, the only other thing I've really been watching is I'm finishing up Love on a Spectrum, because that's my jam. Love that show. It's just heartwarming. So, watching some of that. And then, shout out to Willow. I know Willow will be listening, and NBA playoffs are here. So, I don't have anyone to talk about with that, but yeah. NBA good times. Yeah, so with that, let's get into the film for this evening. This was a Mike pick. Tenebrae.
Oh, God. Yeah. Right. I don't have to worry about mispronouncing it anymore after that.
Yeah, there we go. Tenebrae, 1982. Mike, why did you pick this for us?
That's such an interesting question. I just fucking love Dario Argento. We haven't done one of his movies in like years, so I thought, you know what? I've just been thinking about it a lot lately, for various reasons, and I was like, we should watch it. Why not?
I like
Everyone
it.
loves Dario Argento. Yeah, I mean, listen, like it's a great movie. I was also, I'm not going to lie, partially I wanted to use this as an excuse because I really wanted to order the 4K of it because it looks beautiful. And I picked it, and then I was like, okay, cool. As soon as we finished, like when I announced it last episode, I got on all the like places where I order movies from in Canada. Fucking on back order everywhere. So I picked it and didn't even get to buy the 4K.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I was like, God damn it.
I feel like Unobstructed View maybe, or someone was doing a sale that this was in, and it was sold
I
out.
didn't realize, they were having a Synapse sale that started like 2 days before we recorded, and I was like, all the good stuff was gone. So yeah, oopsie. Well, I'm still gonna order it, obviously, but I just wanted to do a rewatch. Unfortunately, I had to use my Synapse limited numbered edition 3-disc Blu-ray from a couple years ago that was like $80. Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm so deprived, right? Yeah, so that's it.
Just sounds like poverty to me.
Oh, I mean, listen, because I'm got shit like that is why I've been in poverty for many years. Me, I'm going to the dollar store for groceries. Also me, the pre-order went up for that $70 Blu-ray. Gotta go into the bathroom at work and order it on my phone. Oops.
With that, let's get into the trailer, and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
Is anybody here? Please, help me.
Tenebrae, terror beyond belief.
Tenebrae was written and directed by Dario Argento, and the story is as follows. Following the release of his latest novel, Tenebrae, author Peter Neal's book tour is derailed when a black glove-wearing, razor-blade-wielding serial killer singles out the author's controversial work as inspiration for their crimes. As those connected to the author continue to be found brutally murdered, the police and Peter himself come to the shocking conclusion of who this psychopath really is.
First experiences. Is this our first time seeing Tenebrae? Or are we just addicted to Giallo? I think I already know Colton's answer. Or are we just addicted to making Colton watch Giallo movies? That's really the answer. Or are you like Colton and you're just secretly hiding from us that your poster, your Blu-ray, your 4K copies of Malignant hanging up?
Mm-hmm. That's not a curtain on his wall. That's a sheet he hangs up to cover all of those posters.
Yeah, I just have to hide that away.
Well, I mean, you know what they say. You gotta, what is it? Cut the cancer. Cut the cancer. I can't remember what the big thing is there. But yeah, first experiences. Mike, have you seen this before, or was this just a pick? Do you just look at the Blu-ray but never watch it?
I love to spend money. Actually, I was about to troll.
Yeah.
This is literally you. I love to spend money on a 4K or a Blu-ray or something, and then just keep it on the shelf and never watch it. That's literally Rowan, everybody. Like, if you don't
Rowan takes more pleasure in just looking at them sitting on his shelf, covered in plastic, than actually watching them.
I really opened that up. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, you just like fucking leaned over and set that trap for yourself and just stuck your foot right in it. No, obviously I've seen this many times. I am very familiar with the work of Mr. Argento. This one was probably like the third one that I saw. The first one was obviously Suspiria, and then Deep Red, and then this. And that's also like my order of how much I like them. I think probably 2, which is, I don't know if it's because I watched them in that order, or if that's how good they actually are, but you know, whatever. I'm not even like ranking. I don't care. They're just like my top 3. But yeah, I've seen it a million times since then. I liked it. It's not I wouldn't say it's a comfort watch. It's more like a discomfort watch. when I want like my brain to be like sliced and diced and dissected, I put on this movie. Ro, I know you've never seen one of his movies before or heard tell of them.
Never. Well, I figure I'd kind of surprise people because I always rag on Argento and how much I love my Suspiria, but I've never fully watched another Argento movie other than Suspiria. So I remember, like, I bought, the Deep Red, like, collector's edition Blu-ray before the 4K was out, and like watched half of it, and then I had to like go do something, and I was like, oh, I'll get back to that. Never got back to it.
By the way, this is how Rowan watches movies, everybody. Like,
well, I end up having to watch them over again because, I've got a little bit of Gill in me and a little bit of Colton, where it's like sometimes I got to drop and come back to it. But then when I come back to it, like, there's nothing I hate more than splitting a movie up in 2. So then I just got to rewatch it all over again. And this kind of happened to me also with, I can't remember, is it like Dark Cover? I can't, whatever his newest one he did for Shudder a couple years
Dark
ago.
Glasses.
Dark Glasses.
Yeah.
I saw like 75% of that because I was watching it at work. And then I was doing something else, and I was like, I probably shouldn't leave this on the TV, just playing as my supervisors come up, and they're like, what the fuck's going on up here? Just titties and knives.
The usual. Yeah. Little do they know.
So this is kind of the second Argento movie I've ever watched fully.
Oh my God, Rowan.
And I love Giallo, but the Giallo movies I've watched have been from other people other than Argento.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But obviously Suspiria, like, all time for me. Like, I think Suspiria is like pretty much a perfect movie in my eyes. So yeah, this is my first time seeing this. It's been on my radar. It's been on my list. I always see it on Shudder, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it, and I never do. But
it's also on Tubi.
Oh yeah.
So you mean you watched it on Shudder with no commercials and a good transfer instead of on Tubi, which was probably ripped from VHS and full of commercials?
100%. I did it the wrong way, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you, Cole?
As God intended.
Yeah, this is a first-time watch for me as well. Obviously, I'm familiar with it, and it's probably been on my watch list half a dozen times throughout the years, but I kind of go through this process of racking up 200 or 300 movies on my watch list, never watching any of them, and then deleting them all and starting over. So Tenebrae has been on there a couple of times for sure. But yeah, for Argento, I'm similar to you, Ro, and the only other thing I've seen is Suspiria, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm not the same as you guys where it's like a unparalleled masterpiece or whatnot, but I did really enjoy it.
Do you like
so
the
coming
remake
into this,
better?
I would say they're pretty similar for me. I think I probably rated them both the same. I'd say they're very different movies though. See, that's I think when we were actually talking about the remake, I mentioned that one is just way more surreal than the other, especially just in the style, like the lighting and whatnot. But yeah, I like both of those. I think they're both great in their own rights. But yeah, this was a first time watch for me. And I didn't know exactly how I was supposed to watch it, to tell you the truth. I was like, is this in Italian? Is this in English? Okay, it's one of these
and
where
you never know.
Everyone's voice is dubbed over anyways.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. But yeah, it's a first time watch for me.
So let's open the floodgates of our imaginations and talk about some gloves, some knives, some first-person perspectives. Let's talk about Tenebrae. Tenebrae. That was, I don't even know.
Hang on 1 second. I'm so sorry. There was something I meant to have, a prop.
Is this where we're supposed to just riff and wait for Mike to bring a prop that nobody can see?
Yeah, I guess this would probably hit a little bit harder if we were a video podcast. But okay, here he comes. All right.
I've been looking forward to this all week because nobody can see this, but I got something from my long dead grandfather a couple weeks ago.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm holding up a beautiful antique, like mint condition, straight razor, literally exactly like the one that the killer uses in this movie. That was my grandfather's, who was dead before, like I'd never met him. He was dead before I was born. And he literally, like, it's absolutely like, it looks like something that they would have made today and you like bought, like vintage style. He used it every day of his fucking life. And wow. I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta like bring it and like flash it on the screen when we do Tenebrae, because, you know, it's fucking straight razor.
Why is there so much blood on it?
I know. Well, I mean, if you've watched this movie, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, listeners, if our guests just start mysteriously passing away, we know who's behind it.
Just wait till someday we do go video and people can see the sign behind Mike written in blood that says,
I did it.
All women should be dead. I don't know. It says something really.
The boys.
Whenever anything is said misogynistic in this review, you got to play the sound. The boys.
Yeah, just do a drop.
Yeah. You know what, Mike? I want you to kick us off because this is your baby. You're so excited about this.
Okay. I mean, let's kick it off. First things first. It opens with the killer, or spoiler alert, one of them, reading from the novel. Okay, first of all, I love movies and books about writers. I don't know why. Maybe it's because like I read and watched a lot of like Stephen King and Stephen King adaptations, and he obviously frequently writes about writers. I'm just like a sucker for it. And so when they're reading the book Tenebrae, I never really appreciated it when I first saw it because I was not like a good judge of this at the time because I read a lot of trash. But like now that I've read a bajillion books, including a lot of really good ones, I have to say I want to read that novel because that novel sounds really good. It sounds like Dario Argento, like something that's kind of like violent and trashy and pulpy, and yet also philosophical and, you know, like cut like a jewel. Am I right? Like,
I had the complete opposite
that it was well
This
written.
book.
I felt like girl.
I feel like it's something like your grandmother buys at like Pharmacy on the
this
rack.
Trashy airport novel.
No, but I've read a lot of actual trashy airport novels, and they would not deign to write a sentence as nice as the one that they read at the beginning.
That opens the movie. Yeah, I think because of the subject matter, I was initially thinking Stephen King right away as well. I was like, oh, okay, is this going to wind up being like Misery or something like that? But I do agree
that there's anything wrong with that.
no, but like Stephen King's prose, like that's why he's been so successful. I think that he has very succinct, like he structures his sentences very easily to read, but there's actually like a craft behind that as well, where you're not being too flowery or not like being overly descriptive or whatnot as well, right? Yeah. So like he would never open one of his books, I don't think, with a sentence like this, but it was just kind of the subject matter I was expecting. I was like, okay, it's probably going to be like a King-esque story, which in some regards it could be something. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
That's like Stephen King-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But you're right, though. And this, like, I think this obviously applies somewhat to other mediums as well, to a lesser extent. But I was just thinking that, like, when you're writing, it is harder to, like, cut something down and be precise. You know, like, it's almost harder to do that than to do too much. You got to say more with less, which is way more difficult than saying less with more.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have those run-on sentences and you've lost half the people reading, midway through the first one. So there is definitely an art to it that King has obviously, perfected throughout his long career.
Literally. Ro, what do you think? Do you want to read this book?
Probably not, but I just can't believe that's where you started. Is this not like the most perfect movie to start off with the music, as like that's what kicks it off?
So
okay,
I agree as well. My first note is this Goblin? Because this score is great, and obviously it is Goblin, but it's also weird where it also sounds vaguely like video gamey to me at times, which obviously it sounds a little bit like the game Shovel Knight, which obviously it's like that was decades after this. But when I was watching it is another one of those scores where it doesn't inherently feel horror or like scary, but it does feel a little bit spooky at times, or almost like Halloween-y at times. Like there is kind of like this excitement or energy to the score that I really liked whenever it would come up throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's almost like there's like whooshes and stuff, if that makes sense. Like
a Halloween House of the Ghosts kind of going past the windows.
Exactly.
Like
yeah. I know. How could I listen? I don't know why I didn't start off with that, because I was thinking like, let's just start at the beginning, and I was just in my mind, because it was a few days ago now that I rewatched it, I was like, the book. But yes, oh my God. And it's just so funny because before, I think it was like a few days before I said I was going to pick this, I don't know why. I was at work one morning, like really early, and I was just like, I couldn't figure out what to listen to. And I went, I'm going to listen to movie soundtracks. And I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to Tenebrae. And I just like put the whole thing on and like listened to it all the way through. Maybe that's why I picked Tenebrae, because I was listening to the soundtrack a few days before. But yeah, I think, and I've listened to it several times since then on like Apple Music and stuff. And like, I just like listening to it when I'm doing other stuff. Like, it's so good. Like, Suspiria is literally one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Everybody agrees, but like it's hard to listen to outside of the context of the movie because it is so like fucking intense.
It's
and
intense,
spooky and scary.
And like it's got all the talking in it where,
like
witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, to me, I think this definitely like competes with Suspiria for banger soundtrack.
I think so too. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen Suspiria, but obviously the score to that is, iconic as well. But when I was watching this, it is a banger. I think that would probably be one of my qualms of the movie. That, don't get me wrong, the score does come up, but there are actually long pieces in this movie where there is no score whatsoever, and I did find myself missing. I was like, oh, I wish Goblin put something in here, just because I think it would have made some of those scenes hit a little bit better for me. But yeah, the score is excellent.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because, and I realized this because I listened to it before I rewatched this movie, and then I listened to it like the day before yesterday maybe or something, and like there are actually a lot of cues in the soundtrack that they reissued that aren't in the movie, or like maybe they're in it faintly in the background and you really have to be like listening and know what's there to hear it.
Yeah.
Or it's like coming out of something, and so like it's just so funny that you said, oh, there's a lot of places where it's like there should be score, and it's like there is a lot of score that actually isn't really in the movie, which is so bizarre. It's just such an interesting choice because his movies are so like music heavy most of the time.
Yeah, so that's the thing for me as someone who's only seen 2 Argento movies. This compared to Suspiria is very different. In a lot of aspects. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some surreal moments in this as well, especially the woman on the beach and kind of like that flashback stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not straight up cop drama, but when I think of Suspiria, even though it's been some years since I've seen it, I think of like the very like colored lighting that's not really motivated like by something in the environment, but it's kind of motivated to sell a feel or a vibe of the movie. When I'm watching this movie almost has, I think, no colored lighting. It's interesting. I read a note from Argento who said that he wanted to light it like just a television cop drama, and I've only seen 2 of his pieces of his work, but I was like, what a weird choice to go from like in my head what this guy is known for is this incredibly colorful lighting to. All right, now we're doing 80s CSI or that sort of thing. It was
Miami Vice,
definitely not what I was expecting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I think of especially the 2 of those, or even like if we're thinking this time period, like Deep Red, which obviously is not a reference for you yet.
Yeah, but, I guess is Deep Red more surrealistic with like this bright lighting, or is it more like this? Yeah, where it feels a little bit more like a true crime thriller.
It's closer to this than Suspiria, but to me it's kind of like a midway point.
It bridges the gap.
Yeah, for sure. I always think of this as a daytime movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is more on the end of, and like I said, I mean, Jesus, I feel so judged. I have all these movies.
Here's the Argento expert coming in here. Yeah. He's seen, 2 movies the same as me.
I have all these movies. I haven't watched them, but from what I've read, and like I've seen a lot of the trailers for like Cat O' Nine Tails and what's the crystal.
The bird with the crystal plumage.
Bird with the crystal plumage. And like when I've seen the trailers for those seem to be more akin with this, where they're almost just like straight up like giallo procedural like cop thriller dramas.
And those were like his first few, so that was more of like I'm making a thriller that's more of like the traditional giallo, whereas Suspiria was where he really like kind of broke with that.
Yeah, because even like modern reinventions of giallo, like let's say obviously Malignant, which I don't like very much, but it does have the colorful, motivated lighting in it. Or what's that Edgar Wright one that he did a couple years ago?
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, that once again has all the very motivated, like harsh red lights or blues or purples or whatnot. So it's something that, even though I'm not an expert on the genre by no means, it's just something that I've come to expect, I guess, especially from these modern versions. So to see something that was kind of like stripped back, I guess, into what my interpretation of a giallo winds up being was interesting. It was also just a little bit drab when I was watching it, but it was like, this is interesting. He's not a one-trick pony, I guess. It was kind of like what I was when I was watching the movie. It's not just
you were expecting another Technicolor.
Yes, absolutely.
Dazzle,
This very much wasn't that.
No, it's very much, like I said, in my mind, I always think of it as like, he did the 2 nighttime films, which is like Suspiria and Deep Red, and then this is very much a like, I'm going to drag all this murder and mayhem into like the cold light of day. And I think that's what it is, like the cold light of day,
Because what's the official, the kind of like official trilogy? What it's like Suspiria, Inferno,
and Mother of Tears. Yeah, which didn't come until the 2000s.
Yeah, but that's like his kind of like not giallo like this, like that's like the supernatural.
Yeah, more of a supernatural leaning one. Yeah,
because
it's the 3 mothers, which is the 3 witches.
Yeah, which like I think is kind of interesting when watching this, like obviously in the 80s, and I think when I think of Argento, I think about the 70s, and so I think it is an interesting time from what I'm reading and seeing, because obviously everything I read was, like he had gone off, explored these like supernatural themes, stuff like that. And then, this is like, I don't know, this is like, Michael Jordan coming out of retirement where he's like, hold my beer. Let me show you how, the guy that basically invented giallo, does this. And I mean, I was going to say it was like Colton, where I've only really seen the 2 now to compare. I could see the influence of the supernatural stuff in this, which makes me more interested to see stuff like Cat o' Nine Tail, where like I would imagine that's just like very procedural.
It's more straightforward.
But this like even like that grandiose like apartment one shot type thing going up the walls where we finally get a scene with that just the banger score kicking in.
That's such a funny scene because I think the camera work actually isn't very impressive in terms of what you're seeing. Like, it's just largely a brick wall for most of it, which they're probably just hoisting up with a rope. But I do agree that I liked it just because of the score. It was just like, oh, this is a great music video taking 2 minutes to go up this building and across the top and down the other side, you know?
I love that because he's soaking up the textures. Like, it's not just like he's going up the side of the building. Like, it's literally like a close-up of like the roof tiles and stuff, and I could tell, and then part of it's then he goes across like the concrete and then like the wood slats on the like blinds, and I'm just like, he is literally just like texturing this movie. And I love that he's just like drinking it in because it's like a visual texture as well as the like texture of the music. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. I was just like, I want to touch it. Like, I don't want to be the psycho killer, but like, I want to like rub my hands along that wall. I'm a sucker for texture. I'm sorry.
And I saw, like, I thought it was kind of interesting. I was reading that apparently, like, the American distribution, like, wanted that entire scene cut out because they were just like, what the fuck is this?
It's literally, for my money, probably the best scene in that movie.
Well, and he fought for it. I was reading that he, like, actually fought for it and was just like, I won't distribute it. Like, if you guys cut out the scene of this banner music looking at walls, like it must be in there. It must be the
like the whole thing, including like the kill and like the girls.
I mean, my guess they would probably be more
cutting
so
just from him coming in.
Yeah,
I would assume. Yeah,
the Americans,
but like
just
the whole
not open to it.
To me, also the like punchline of that whole insane like camera gliding over the weird futuristic building is when it leads to another one of my favorite things that ever happens in a movie is when exegetic music becomes diegetic and it ends with her going bah and like lifting the needle off her record. I'm like, the score was playing on her record the whole time. Like, I fucking love that. I don't know why.
That's
like,
fun. I like that sort of thing as well.
When someone like turns off the radio or whatever, or like takes their headphones out and the music stops, I'm like, oh, fuck, I knew it.
So since Rowan mentioned the kind of studio notes or what they wanted, I just have to bring up the dubbing because whenever we do these movies, the dubbing kills me. So I did watch it in English. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to watch it in or not.
Yes,
that's like I might have watched it once, not in English.
Okay, so when I Googled it, it did say that it was made for an American audience largely, or an English-speaking audience. So most of the actors were actually speaking English in the movie, but they still redubbed everybody anyways.
100%.
And then obviously there was a couple of people that the mouths didn't line up. So what I will say is it wasn't as bad as some of these giallos from like this period that I've watched where it's clearly like everyone is speaking Italian, but now it's redubbed in English and whatnot, and it's just nothing matches up. But it's still something when I'm watching these movies that the ADR is just crazy. Like some actors are just better at redelivering their lines to kind of like no motivation or just to the footage than others. Where is that something that's not distracting to you guys at all just because you're used to these sorts of things, or does it bother you? Because when I was watching it, it did bother me for a good portion of it, but, you know, eventually I got used to it, just largely because there were so many English speakers in this, and it was kind of like, maybe I'll just ignore that it's not lining up precisely, you know?
I feel like it's something you got to get used to. Like, I definitely threw me off, like, when I first started watching giallo movies, and then, you know, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to live with it, because the more I look into it, I'm like, oh, this is, like, a stylistic choice that this genre has done. And
it's not even just giallo. It's like if you go watch a Fistful of Dollars trilogy, right? It's like that. It's just predominantly throughout all, you know, Italian filmmaking, I think.
And Argento too, like, I know everything I've kind of read about him too. Like, I mean, he doesn't help the matter that he just does shit crazy, where like I know a lot of his films he'll be like, oh, you're German, you're Italian, you're whatever, like all you guys speak your own languages, and then we're just gonna dub English over it, so it doesn't even matter. And like,
oh, you're speaking English, we're still dubbing you English.
Yeah, like Yeah, but I could see, and I feel like that's kind of the main complaint of anyone that's either like just getting into Giallo or like doesn't like Giallo, like it's a turn off for them. Like it seems to always be that, I find. It's like you can either kind of look past that or it's just so jarring that, you know, it's something you're like,
Yeah, I'm one of those weirdos. If you're watching a movie and it's in 25 frames per second instead of 24, I'm going into like VLC and like modulating and changing it because just that extra frame drives me crazy. So it's just when the mouths aren't lining up for me at all, it's like a constant distraction that it does take me probably 2/3 of the movie before I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm used to this now, whatever. So yeah, maybe it's just the more of these sorts of things I'd watch, I'd get used to it. But it is always kind of like a constant reminder whenever I throw on one of these movies from this era that it's like, okay, yeah, I got to get used to this, that none of it's going to line up perfectly, at least.
But like, because you brought it up, shout out, because it is one of my notes, that one of my favorite actresses of all time, who has like worked with Ken Russell and like all of the greats, does the dubbing for Daria Nicolodi, and that is Teresa Russell. Shout out, Wild Things, Spider-Man, Horror, Bad Timing. She's been in literally every movie of all time. Yeah, so if you watch this movie, I was literally probably like 10 years into me watching this before. I always thought like, Daria sounds weird in this movie. Like, obviously it's not her that they got to dub. And I like kind of just, I didn't look it up, I guess, because I know her because I'd seen her in a bunch of Argento movies and stuff, but I also knew the voice, so it kind of like just seemed right to me. And then I was like, I looked it up and it was like Teresa Russell was like uncredited, but she's the one. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, how did I not get that? And now every time I watch it, it's almost distracting because I'm picturing Teresa Russell, who is not Daria Nicolodi at all. But yeah, also I just don't find it that distracting. It kind of like adds this extra layer of like surrealness to it for me, and
that's what I hear.
Mind it.
Yeah, that's what I hear when a lot of people talk about like Suspiria, where once again that is a more like fantastical, magical, surreal movie. It was just, there are elements of that in this movie, but this one just being more explicitly almost like a noir crime thriller thriller to a lot of it. It was just, I was wondering if there was still that added bonus of making it feel a little bit more surreal or strange. I guess that it does something for you.
Yeah, I like it. It kind of like, it doesn't take me out of it as much as it's like just throws me off kilter, I guess, which I don't mind. Like I said, it's my discomfort watch.
I will say I was super pumped. You see my boy John Saxon in this.
Oh my God, I know. Have we not talked about him yet?
How I did think as I watched this, I was like, John Saxon, he might be the most viewed actor in It Slays podcast history. Because I was like thinking, I'm like, he's in quite a like Nightmare on Elm Street, Black Christmas. I feel like he was in like a couple other things that we might have talked about just as like a minor character, but
I legitimately think that he is one of the people. I'm trying to figure out how to look at my stats, but you know, it gives you your stats of like the director you watch
and
the most and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I definitely, he was, stats, hang on, I gotta see if I got something there for him.
We should we'll just have to have our own app, like It Slays Box, where you can also get which actors from movies we forced you to watch.
With their wrong
he's
names.
He's in my,
yeah, that's right.
He's in my top 6.
Nice.
Which is, but he's tied for number 2. So I have, my number 1 is 2 people that I watched 5 films of, and Colton, you'll love that one of them is Willem Dafoe.
Oh, excellent.
And then after that, I have all in with 4 films in whatever, I guess it was the last year or all time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Clea Duvall, Linda Blair, Donald Pleasance, and John Saxon. So it's all the like scream queens and kings. I just think that's so funny. They're all in second place.
Although I will say I was kind of sad because I felt like John Saxon wasn't even like really used in this.
He wasn't that prominent in this. Yeah. No, he's the agent, right? Bulmer?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's good when he's in it, but like
I was going to say he kind of steals it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's in it.
And I'll be honest, probably the first half of this movie, I wasn't like huge on the Anthony Francis Sisqua, or I don't know whatever his name is.
Yeah, the guy who's playing the Peter Neal.
Peter Neal, yeah.
Yeah, I was like kind of like I don't really know if I love this guy. And then I guess as it came more and more apparent that I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's like one of the killers or whatever. I guess got endeared by the end. I thought he was like giving me heavy Anthony Perkins vibes, like by the end of it. It might have just been the sweaters going on and the outfits.
Listen, sweaters do a lot of work.
Yeah.
The outfits do a lot of work in this movie. It's very, like, Italian couture coded.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that, like, this movie's kind of known for its fashion? I'm surprised that you didn't bring that up right away, Mike, that...
I don't... It's like 8 of my notes, so I was just trying to spare you, I guess. I do, like, always go, like, literally, if you told me that, like, you know, Armani or, like... you know, Dolce & Gabbana or Versace or somebody did these outfits, I would 100% believe you. It is none of those, but
yeah,
still.
Well, I was going to say, I felt watching this, like, I mean, yeah, the style is like very unique or distinct. I'm like, yeah, this is like, to me, this might be a style over substance movie. I was like, it's very stylish, like, the music stylized, the fashion stylized, some of the shot cinematography work is stylized. But, like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just, like, Neanderthal, white Canadian guy, but I'm just going to put it out here. Like, a lot of this movie, I was, like, getting very confused at who people were, what the relationships were with each other. And there'd be like someone would show up and I'm like, wait a second, is that this person? And then they'd disappear for like 40 minutes.
There were so many topless brunettes that kind of get killed. They're in for a couple of scenes and then they wind up getting killed, that I was losing track of people a little bit as well, especially when it was being intercut with kind of the flashbacks, more surreal scenes that also had...
You have to pay attention to their bangs. They all have different bangs. That's how you tell them apart.
Damn it. I wish I knew that going into the movie, because I was like, okay, no, you kind of... Everyone has like the same like eyes, where the mascara and eyeliner, and then they're stylized a lot of the way, or at least if it's in a scene where they're going to die, they're probably not wearing a lot anyways. That it winds up being the sort of thing where I was like, okay, did we see her before? Was she a prominent character? Is this a cutaway to a random woman? And the thing is, with this movie, a lot of these characters are set up at least a little bit before they die. And that I kind of did enjoy that. It seemed like the killing was just kind of... It didn't really matter if they were like an important character or not. He just killed them off. There was a couple of people in the beginning of the movie that had fairly prominent scenes, like the journalist who was pressing Peter Neal at the at the book signing. I was like, okay, yeah, like she's going to be obviously a main character or a secondary character, and she's dead within 10 minutes after that scene. So there's a couple of different people that they set up, and I perceived them to be important, and then they're just killed indiscriminately. It was just, for me, I was having a hard time, similar to Rowan, is tracking all these beautiful women and who they were and what their connections to one another were.
And it is and you're right. It's like, and then Jane shows up every
and
now
they're
and
styled
then,
very similarly, like a lot of them, and then it's like, this is a woman from his past, and then this one, it's just they're stealing each other's shoes or whatever. There's different aspects to it. When I was watching it, that I was just getting a little bit confused, for even though this movie does spend a lot of time chatting about the case and what the specifics of it, and kind of explaining who these people are and how they're related and whatnot. It was just, when you were mentioning names, I had to pull up the IMDb right away, because I was like, who is this? Like, who are these people?
Nothing makes us sound more like serial killers than we're like, all these topless dead brunettes look the same to me.
Well, I wouldn't describe them that way, but it's
choice.
It's like, every woman in this movie that dies is, topless and kind of backing away, screaming, oftentimes with like lipstick on and, eyeshadow or eyeliner or whatnot. So it was just the sort of thing where there is just a similarity to a lot of the women that are kind of targeted in this movie, with a couple exceptions, of course.
Well, I mean, Argento's definitely in this, I guess it's, we're coming into the 80s, 82, like Argento, like, has the sex dial way up on this one, like extremely sexy, like even for 82, like there's like some pretty racy stuff in here. I mean, not like for now, but like two of the like you have two of the women. They're obviously in a relationship to live together, and
and she also likes to fuck other dudes in the house.
Yeah, the jealousy.
Yeah. I love that whole scene.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I
it's
actually
literally
also
my favorite.
I really like that scene. Well, I thought it was just interesting because it reminds me of stuff like when we talk about like Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker. Like it's just things that like in this time period that you're like, whoa, like they're like doing this stuff or showing this stuff or talking about this stuff, and I guess you don't really think about it in that time period. But I mean, this is a very, very sexy movie in terms of Giallo's portrayal of sex. Obviously, this is like a trademark, right? Like, what's that one, Mike? The Mrs. Ward Giallo.
Oh, the Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. Yeah.
Which, like, I remember watching that and I'm like, whoa, like, it's like about like kink sex, and I'm like, this is wild. And
good old
kink stuff. I got a little bit of kink stuff in here too, just with like kind of the choking and shoving the pages into her mouth, or there's the one scene where she's stepping on him with the heels and then puts the heel in his mouth and whatnot. There were some things in this where I was like, oh, there's certain
CBT when she kicks him in the balls.
yeah. There's some audience members that could watch this for that if that's what you're looking for.
Oh, for sure.
If you have a thing about heels, for sure, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Which even the heels daydream, like, which I did like a lot of the daydream scenes. I guess as like scenes themselves.
I love those sequences. Yeah.
But it was still, like most of the story where I'm like, okay, okay, these heels are gonna mean something. And then I'm like, no, I don't think.
But they do.
Well,
they do. They come back at the end, right before he's revealed.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, he leaves them in and they're the same ones. Because remember, in one of the flashbacks, it shows him snatching the heels up
the pool
at the very
scene.
end. Yeah. Also, of note, just considering you were like, oh, at the time and stuff, the woman in the flashback scene that kicks him and humiliates him and stuff, that is a transgender actress.
Oh, really?
Eva Robbins.
Oh, yes. Okay. I did not know that.
And she has music out, as I found out about 3 days ago, because Willow sent it to me.
Oh, nice. Is it good?
And it's actually pretty good, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Just, if you're into that, go check out. So first one I listened to was called like Disco something, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't even have to listen to this. I know I'm going to like it already. And I don't know if it's new because the date on it was like a couple years ago, but like sometimes when you listen to stuff on Spotify, it's like 40 years old, but like it got reissued, so it has like a different date on it. And anyway, so I don't know if it's new music or old music or new music that sounds old, or I don't know. Anyway, just trivia.
I like those scenes as well because that was more so what I was expecting from this movie.
Yeah.
And I was also so like, what the hell is going on here? I was like, okay, is this like a witch? Is this a cult? Is this just a gangbang? What is this scene on the beach essentially that was playing out? And I didn't know why it was important. So it kind of kept cropping back up in different ways, or like these sorts of scenes. They were probably my favorite scenes of the movie because, once again, it was just more so what I was expecting, and it was like a welcome reprieve from, this cop drama for a good section of it.
I love the transition that they use, though, with the, like, insane close-ups of, like, the pills and the cup of water and the, like, heavy breathing and the shadows and stuff. Like, oh, my God. I could eat it with a fucking spoon, because it reminds me of, like, the which, of course, is going to go over your guys' head because you haven't seen it. But, like, well, like, that's what happens. I'm trying to think if it's... I've seen this movie 100 times, I should know, but it's either, like, before or after he kills somebody. But in Deep Red, there's something similar. Before the killer goes out, it does this like insane musical montage of like close-ups of like little keepsakes, like, and toys and stuff, like marbles on a like sheet of velvet or something, and like little dolls and stuff, and then it like goes on a switchblade, and then the killer goes and kills somebody. And I just think that those are like really cool kind of like cuts to like, oh, okay, now we're having a perspective shift and something bad is going to happen, you know, or something worse, I should say. Yeah. So I love those little, like, I'm like, ooh, here comes the, like, pills. Something bad's about to happen.
I will say, you know, for whodunit, I guess I got to congratulate them because this entire time I was convinced it was Jane. And I was like, this movie's stupid. It's just this Jane person. Like, what kind of idiots are these?
For basically the whole movie, I thought it was her as well, just because the movie kind of cheats in a way, right? When you get to, because essentially everyone, when you go into this movie, you'd be like, oh, it's obviously the author, like Peter Neal. But right away, they write him off because he has the alibi that he wasn't in town, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, was Jane in town? We don't really get her specifics on if she was in there a little bit early or what happened there, or maybe his agent's involved or something like that. So it was doing a decent job of misdirecting. But when it just winds up being two people and the other one is Peter Neal, I was like, okay, you're cheating a little bit. I mean, I don't know if anyone can guess that it's like, okay, it's going to be this random guy and Peter Neal, you know, this like obsessed journalist. But I mean,
he does make the, you know, like Conan Doyle reference of like,
yeah.
You know, it may be improbable, but it's the truth.
Yeah, the Hounds of Baskerville,
yeah. Yeah. Also, shout out to the hound that pops up in this movie.
Oh my god.
Dog.
That is quite
terrifying. It's Resident Evil.
Yeah. That's quite the chase sequence, and also like that dog has a mean vertical. Like it was interesting because in the first scene he jumped way higher than I would expect the dog to jump, and it was just like she was walking by the gate or something.
Yeah,
and he goes like over her head, and I was like, that's a strange take to keep in the movie, whatever. And I was like, oh, never mind. He's got to straight up jump over the gate like a second later. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, never mind. That makes more sense. But yeah, I was just kind of instantly shocked at how high the dog could jump.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like, that's another one of the surreal elements. Like it's fine because the dog very clearly did it. Like it's not CG, but like it's also like not something that you expect, and it kind of out of nowhere. So that gives it that like a little bit of a little friction, you know.
I was gonna say I did really like the death of the journalist, like that whole scene. So once we flip obviously to, oh, okay, there's another killer, like it's not this guy.
Yeah.
But like I thought that scene was so well done with like the lightning and just like the shadow work and the axe, and you know, I was just like,
and that fucking house and the yard and the pool and like, I just want to talk about the like houses and buildings.
Well, I felt kind of bad in talking about the house because we kind of get set up with this like, he's kind of got like that layer, like the basement where he's like, you know,
and it's like dirty and
he's got the dark room and he's doing the pictures and cutting the letters and all that. And it's like, we only actually get to, you know, live in that area for like 5 minutes because they're going to kill him. And now we're at another killer that isn't using this place. So it doesn't really matter.
We got a couple cool shots, so that's...
Well, yeah, I mean, at least...
I agree, yeah, the house inside upstairs was really cool. It was, like, really modern. It reminded me of, like, the house from Parasite or something. I don't know. It was just very angular, open concept, you know, a big view with, like, the backyard and whatnot. It was a good set.
One of the notes I had was... I remember one time when I watched this while I was stoned, and maybe another Argento, I was like, I'm gonna write a book about... or at least a blog about like buildings in giallo movies. But the note that I had it on this time, and it's maybe because I was leafing through one of my favorite books of all time by the brilliant film critic Maitland McDonough called Broken Mirrors, Broken Minds, The Dark Dreams of Dario Argento. I'm holding it up, but nobody can see it. And she goes through like chapter by chapter and does a like kind of analysis of all the movies in his career. Well, that came out in like 1989 or 1990 or something, so it's like kind of his imperial phase. But I was just kind of like leafing through it to like wet my whistle while I was waiting to watch this last week or rewatch it. And one of the paragraphs jumped out at me, and she's talking about an interview that Dario Argento did, which I never read, only in this book. And I think it's why I love this movie so much, because at face value, it's like a cold light of day, like police procedural kind of like thriller. But he said in an interview at the time, that he was kind of trying to make it feel like it's like slightly in the future, right? And you kind of get that like the streets are empty a lot of the time, and it's these like kind of cold, weird houses, and like there's no reference to like all the like art and architecture, because like you're in Rome, right? And like it's literally like a historic capital of the world, and you know, you don't get the usual kind of like touristy like, oh, there's no big shot of like, you know, this thing and that thing, and you know, like a Colosseum and stuff like that. And it's all very much like, and he said like, yeah, I wanted to make it subtle that this was like several years in the future, and maybe like something has happened and you don't really recognize anything, and everything's kind of off. And like I was watching this and it made me kind of think it's giving me like a little whiff of like Clockwork Orange, like some of the apartments and stuff like that, and the furnishings and the vibe.
Oh yeah, Clockwork Orange. I was gonna say,
right, yeah. And like the violence, the bursts of violence.
I know I read that Argento said that a lot of the architecture for this he actually based off of Possession. And that
that makes sense, yeah.
He kind of envisioned it in that, you know, that look of the buildings and stuff.
Yeah, for me, when I was watching it, obviously it's set in Rome, but the intention to not show any of the landmarks or any of the touristy traps just made it seem more like a grounded, like smaller scale, sort of like these are people that actually live in Rome, or a lot of the people. That it was just like, obviously they're not remarking about the Colosseum or some other landmark, you know, that's their everyday life. So I thought it was interesting to shoot a movie in Rome on location, but then also intentionally avoid shooting anything that someone who's not from Rome and you just glance at it, you know, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was shot there. So it just
it's almost like you're obscuring that it's there. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else has. We're all just kind of sitting here silently, but it's just I'm trying not to be like too negative on the movie, because I will say that this did largely work for me. I did enjoy my time with it. I will say that this movie has an insane amount of kind of like titillation in it, like sexual scenes, violence, a high body count. There's loads of kills.
Yeah.
But there was just something when I was watching it that I found it to be just a little bit dry. And I wonder if that's kind of my issue with giallos, where a lot of the time, and this obviously Malignant is a outlier here, but a lot of the time we're kind of focused on the actual specifics of the case and the police officers, and we're sitting down and we're discussing kind of the specifics of them. We spend a lot of time in this movie just with like kind of police officers and, you know, Peter and whatnot, just discussing like, where were you? What is happening in the case? Oh, there's another murder. A lot of kind of like the bureaucracy of like kind of the killing or the trying to figure out the case, where I almost think I would just prefer it if one of the main viewpoint characters was like, I don't know, a friend of the woman who was killed and the woman is now the main character or whatnot. Less so kind of like the police aspect of the movie. And, you know, I say that, and then Malignant, obviously, it's very much one of those movies where you're with a woman the entire time. It's just a giallo movie and it doesn't work for me. So I don't know what it is, but when I was watching it, it just felt a little bit stuffy to me, I guess, at times. I don't know the specific word for it. And obviously it was intentional. He was trying to make it seem like a cop drama to a certain degree. But as I was watching this as a horror movie, with my only other touch point being Suspiria, it was just... It felt just kind of, I don't know, just a little bit more dull than I expected, despite, once again, having probably a kill every 10, 15 minutes, probably.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I can definitely see, kind of like I said before, like, I can see that being the turnoff for people that are coming into giallo, like, because if that's not your thing, especially, like, I think your words describe it perfectly, like, almost a stuffy police procedural. At least what I've seen, like a lot of giallos are that, like, in essence of like kind of these like hyper violent, hyper sexual kills, but then like the rest is kind of just like this basic like Law and Order in Italy.
I will say that I do like the two cops that we kind of focus on in this movie, that they're not just complete buffoons or like not just in there for comedic relief. Obviously, there's a couple like jokes and whatnot, and the guy's a little bit misogynistic at times and whatnot. But just as characters, I thought at least they were well developed. It was just still, it was the sort of thing when I was watching it, I was just kind of thinking, I wonder if there was a way to get across the investigation aspect or the solving a crime or figuring out the killer is without intentionally going like, okay, this is the detective and this is, you know, the constable, and they're solving the crime and we're talking through the specifics of the case so often. Because it was the sort of thing where the movie, for a lot of it's kind of like a kill, and we cut to most of the time Peter and what he's up to, and then it's always like the police knocking at his door, or he's getting questioned, or he happens to be around, where it was just the sort of thing where I wonder what the movie looks like if you can kind of pare down that cop stuff a little bit.
Maybe it's just because I'm more familiar with it, but
yeah,
I found that most of the time that stuff was kind of like, if you're not paying attention to it, you probably don't notice it. But like, even when they're doing the procedural stuff, they tend to relate it a lot back to his work and crime writing in general. Like, they're always bringing up like and making vague or explicit references to like Agatha Christie and Conan Doyle and, you know, Raymond Chandler and stuff like that. And like, then they're talking about like, you know, your work, Peter, and stuff. And I feel like a lot of it is actually looking at police work through the lens of like writing about it or making art about it, which, and like about detective, I was about to say detecting, detection. You know what I'm saying? And I like had a lot of notes about that because I'm just like, oh yeah, here they are again. This is all like kind of meta, and Dario Argento writing about criticism of Dario Argento movies. I just feel like it's there's a lot of it that's actually about art and not police work, and that's sort of like the vehicle, which maybe works for you and maybe doesn't.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. Like, obviously, as a first-time watch, I was just kind of taking these scenes mostly at they're just trying to figure out who the killer is, and they very much think it's Peter, and they're kind of bringing up, you know, examples from his writing or kind of talking about how this specific aspect was controversial in something else he did. So it just still, maybe there is like more there to like sink your teeth into. Just as a first time watch, I just found those scenes were obviously significantly more boring than obviously you know, the kills, and because the kills are crazy, you know, or crazy is the wrong word for them, but they're handled very well. You know, I think like basically all the kills in the movie are entertaining to the degree that, or you know, what they're supposed to be.
Was Elsa like kind of the signature kill in this one that the cover is based off? Is that right, in the kitchen or whatever? Was that where Elsa
when her head goes through the,
who's the one that it's like
the
with
stair
the sheets and stuff,
her head pokes out?
Yeah, it's they kill Tilda, you know, when she's obviously on the cover of this beautiful
okay,
Blu-ray.
Tilda's who I was thinking.
Yeah, and then her girlfriend gets killed right afterwards, and her head goes through the glass on the stair, and then it cuts to like the camera coming down the stairs, and then that's what they use as the key art for the movie in most releases.
Yeah, those two deaths scenes, like I was just gonna say, like I really, really like. Obviously, you know, I was thinking because me and Colton had a conversation with Sinners about blood, and you know, we were talking about orange blood in that, but this one, like, I just like, I don't know, like Argento just always films blood, like, you know, I know that's kind of his signature thing, and giallos in general are very visceral with that. I thought it was like, it was beautiful, like as beautiful
1,000%,
as beautiful as killing can be.
Well, and that's also like part of the intention of the movie, where this specific killer is trying to kind of capture the death in this beautifully like macabre way as well, right? Like with when the one character stumbles into his basement, she's, you know, kind of remarking or horrified by it, but there is also like a beauty to it that I thought when the movie was actually playing out its kills, it was kind of hammering that home, because even though they are dead and there's obviously blood or viscera or whatever on screen, they were posed in a very particular way where it reminds you of that, you know, the famous photo of, you know, the girl who's dead on the car, you know, that sort of imagery where it's like, okay, there is like a beauty in death almost, and at least this is all carefully cultivated by Argento.
Well, it's all very like, you know, it's not like, oh, they're just a heap in the corner, like face down in the corner or like hanging off the bed or whatever. It's all like beautifully shot and beautifully like very particularly posed.
Yeah, their dress is posed in such a way where there's one nipple and then the light is coming across it, and then you can see the throat slit and the blood coming across in such a way where it does very much feel like almost like a a fashion shoot, or at least like a pose, like a modeling pose sort of thing, which is very different than a lot of other horror movies when people are killed off. Obviously,
and it's gruesome, and then they're like a heap of viscera on the floor.
Exactly. Where this it's interesting because a lot of the kills, especially in the first part of the movie, are just a quick flick of the switchblade or the razor blade, or and it's the sort of thing where it shouldn't be so effective. But when I was watching it, I did think they did a good job of kind of ratcheting up the tension or the terror in the scenes. That it did work for me still. Like, obviously it wasn't like horrifying me or anything. Or obviously we've seen way more intense gore, especially in, more modern movies. It was something that was still just effective. It was like clean and concise, but also like it kind of got the response I would say he was going for.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like you were saying that like some of it seemed drab, but the one, like, there was two things really one thing just in general that always like breaks that up, and that is red, and it's the blood. And the blood is obviously, and Dario Argento does this in several of his movies, like especially Suspiria, but Suspiria is red everywhere. It's red color, red walls, like it's just red blood spilling all over the place. But in this, it's like the fashions are like not like, they're beautiful and stylish, but they're not like over the top. Like a lot of, European fashion is like really colorful and stuff. But in this, it's very like muted colors, pastels, whites and stuff like that, and yellows. But then you have the red shoes, which are very, 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 very important to the plot because of it's like the genesis of, his like thirst for annihilation, right? Murder.
Yeah. And then to have
and the blood is the same color as the shoes, right?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. And then to have so much of the movie kind of like drably lit, or in, like I was saying, kind of like these stuffy environments where basically the most predominant colors are brown and beige, to have a lot of the kills featured with at least stylized lighting, not like this hyper stylized lighting that I'm used to from Suspiria, but to have like, okay, there's some harsh shadows here, there's a bit of the blue light, or, that makes the blood stand out a little bit more. It's definitely like an intentional contrast. It's just I very much prefer one part of the movie than the other part of the movie, especially when I was coming into Argento and essentially expecting more so the Suspiria style, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just like think about that scene at the end, right, with the like in Jane's like little rented apartment thing, like. Literally, it's so different for Argento in that like a lot of the decor is more muted and minimalist, and again, that's what made me sort of like think of something like futuristic and like Clockwork Orange, because it is minimalist, which you don't think about when you think about Dario Argento. You think maximalist, but this one in particular was like, oh my god, like literally, there's barely anything in here. It's like Dario Argento's version of a fuckboy's apartment with like a mattress on the floor and fucking boxes as a table, right? Like in a TV, and that's it. But like then you get that insane shot where like her arm gets cut off, and then you realize that the reason why this whole thing is white is because it's about to get completely painted over in the brightest fucking candy apple red blood in the most absurd way possible, in the most beautiful shot. Like I just love it. It's like just waiting to be like painted with people's blood. Again, eat it up with a spoon.
No, I was just gonna say, I think we should just talk about like the ending or the specifics of the ending, like how the twist happens. I didn't exactly expect it, or at least with the false razor blade kill, that sort of thing. Like, I think the specifics of that ending it's pretty fun. Where it's just like the axe in the back of the other cop. They go outside to kind of reset the whole vibe of kind of the house, so he can kind of get away and like run away, essentially, like hide away.
Yeah.
I just thought like it was a good twist at the end. I heard a lot of people saying that obviously the movie ends in a twist ending and you'll never see it coming, and I played into that a little bit with like the blurb and whatnot. But after he slits his own throat with the straight razor, I did not see that it was like gonna be, it's a trick razor and he's still alive. And yeah, it just caught me by surprise. I enjoyed the ending. It was entertaining. And obviously there's a lot of carnage, and that's what I'm saying. It's strange for me to basically be like, a movie that's also not a crazy runtime. It feels just a little bit slow and methodical to me for a lot of time for having such a high body count, because this ending was a lot of fun, and it's not really out of place in the rest of the movie you've seen. There is a lot of carnage and death throughout the movie. So it's just a strange vibe.
I mean, listen, like 3 minutes before that, someone's arm gets chopped off.
Right?
Right? Yeah. Like literally, it's like not definitely less than 5 minutes before.
Exactly. Yeah.
I saw Dario Argento's daughter said too that this end scene was what got her into wanting to be an actress.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Just the woman screaming.
Screaming.
Yeah.
Her mother. Good old mom. Mother Argento.
I was going to say, I agree. Like, I didn't really see that twist coming, because I was like, oh, okay. Like, this seems very, he kills himself, and it's very, like, melodramatic, like soap opera. And then, when it was like,
then you have the question of, why is this still going?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the killer just killed himself right in the car. I'm kind of like, okay, where is this going to end? Right? And then to have them go back in the house again and the body's gone, I just didn't see that coming.
And the impalement, like, I thought that was great, because we're so used to the kills in this just being like an axe or, the razor blade. And
well, I do think they get ratcheted
then all of a
up.
Sudden it's Final Destination, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I do think they get ratcheted up throughout the course of the movie, but you are right. It's oftentimes like a quick swing of the axe.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. But yeah, the impalement right at the end with the art piece, the big statue there, and kind of her being the one to blame for pushing it into somewhat and like actually impaling him. And I don't know. I thought the ending was just executed really well. There was just a lot of carnage.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the funny thing, because like you said, it's if it does seem more methodical for most of the movie, once it gets into that final act, it's just like, oh, wait, this is now completely fucking off the rails.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost more in the line of what you would expect, because it is more like it's nighttime and it's raining and it's crazy and there's like insane deaths and there's blood everywhere and you're trying to figure out what's going on every 30 seconds. It doesn't jump the shark, but it goes off the rails. It jumps the rails, but not the shark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if that's everything, let's land the plane and get into rating this. So if you're new to our program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Mike, this was your pick. What would you rate Tenebrae 1982? Tenebrae.
Why did you go with me first? Rowan, we're in your divorce.
I mean, I feel like me and Colton already know where you're going with this one, so.
I know. Okay, so, well, and I'm surprised that Colton didn't make reference to the fact that I put my Letterboxd up even before we were supposed to record, which was like 3 days ago.
Wow.
But if anybody did go on Letterboxd, they will see that, again, for the multiple time, I rated this 5 stars and a heart. It's a slay. I think that it is like not just one of my favorite Argentos, but like probably one of my favorite horror movies ever. Every time I watch it, I appreciate something new about it. It's one of the movies where the fact that he started his career as a film critic and was very like philosophical and kind of like, I don't want to say analytical, but more like careful with like he pays more attention to like the semiotics of film and like mise en scène. And I just feel like in this movie, even though it's a bit more muted for Dario Argento, you can see the like craft and his just use of like images. And it's so, and if you like know his work and like him and stuff, like even if you don't, you can see like right from the first scene that this is like very self-referential. It's very much like I'm talking about the type of movie that I'm about to show you that I have been making for years, that I'm known for making. And I just think that it's like so brilliant, and I could go on for like hours and talk everyone's ear off, and I'm not going to. I just think it's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. The fashion is insane. There's like just so many scenes and shots where I'm like, he like is analyzing horror movies, humanity, monstrosity, art. Like, I just love it. So Slay boots the house down. Colton, what about you? I'm very curious.
Well, yeah, just behind the scenes, obviously, I wasn't looking forward to watching this movie very much. I was kind of groaning about it in the group chat, and then Mike got annoyed with me, so I just shut up and watched it.
Listen, I was just like, okay, I'll call you out now. And
So it's just, it's hard for me to come into a giallo movie just because I don't think I've seen one that I've truly enjoyed. Really.
Other than the Malignant, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say other than this one,
movie.
I do think this is the best giallo I've seen so far. It got as close as anything did to like, okay, I genuinely enjoy this, would like rewatch it. It's the sort of thing where I did like that we spent a little bit more time with the female characters in the movie, where it wasn't just like they were just a prop, or they weren't just like set up to look hot and then killed. Some of them were, but there were some where like, once again, I thought they were going to be like fundamental characters to the movie, so obviously I knew them a little bit. I do think the kills are all handled really well. I think the style and kind of like those flashback sequences are kind of like what I was looking for this movie. For me, it's just kind of, and Mike finds something to look at in it, but it's just kind of like these scenes where essentially we go to like a bunch of dudes or a bunch of like cops kind of like talking in circles trying to figure out like the murder, and then we cut to the next murder. It's just a lot of those scenes for me just felt a little bit more boring than I think a lot of other movies I've seen of kind of this ilk. Or like, once again, I was expecting them to just be lit or kind of executed in a little bit of a different way. I think I still like the cops and the scenes. It was just, there was a lot of these scenes that it was basically murder punctuated with a long sequence of discussing the murder and the specifics of which, or trying to come to some sort of conclusion, like actual cop work, that just the lighting and sort of things, it was hard for me to pay attention to at times, which once again, to call this movie boring is just insane. It's like, obviously there's something wrong with me where it winds up being like, you probably have a dozen kills in this movie, and for some reason I still call it a bit dull. But I think it's just literally those cop sequences kind of grind things to a halt for me, that I didn't really get too much in there. But yeah, like I said, this is probably the best giallo I've seen so far. I'd give it a yay. It's the sort of thing I wouldn't be opposed to rewatching this at some point in the future. I don't like, and it quite as much. And I do want to say
that it would reward a rewatch. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things to unpack, and you just can't do that on one watch.
I would agree with that too, just because there is an aspect of the whodunit where you're trying to figure out the specifics of which, and trying like, even in your head, trying to line up, okay, does this alibi work? Who basically the misdirection of thinking who's the killer, that at least that could be silenced on like an additional viewing. But yeah, it's the sort of thing where I enjoyed it. It's not Suspiria for me, but it was still a solid watch overall. What about you, Rowan?
Yeah, I kind of have the same sentiments with this. Like, I think it's beautiful. I really like, there's some kills in this I really like. I think the blood looked fantastic. The whodunit threw some twists for me that I didn't see coming and threw me off guard, which, I guess is a sign of a good whodunit. I didn't mention in the review, but I was a good parent, and Nev watched this with me. Which she watched like
just an insane daddy-daughter watch, I have to say.
I was like, I'm so proud, Rowan.
She watched like the last hour. She
saw the good stuff.
Yeah. I have something to reveal with this. This is kind of a Mike reveal, a la Jaws, that the last hour of this I had to watch on my phone because I had no power.
Girl.
And so I was watching it on my phone.
Not quite as offensive as Mike watching it Jaws on a bus, going down the road on his phone. But it's up there. Yeah.
Listening to all these like sketchy people having conversations. Yeah.
But the good thing is that I think, like Colton said, to me, this is one that I want to rewatch again. I think it does have some rewatchability, and just as, even from this conversation that we had where I'm piecing together like, okay, this person was this person, and I'm getting a little less confused. I like to go back, rewatch it on my large television and not my phone, because this is
do yourself a favor. That's an injustice, obviously, just like Jaws.
Yeah, even on my phone, this is a very beautiful film. So I'm sure
get the 4K and watch it on your TV.
So for that, I'm kind of with Colton. There's other giallos I like better than this one. But I do really like this. I think I'm going to give it a yay also. I think it's definitely deserving of that.
Also, just quickly, none of us mentioned in our final thoughts the score, which was one of my issues with the movie, is that I just wanted more of it. Because there are a lot of sequences near the end as well where there is probably 3 or 4 minutes and there is like some killing or some tension or whatnot on screen and there is no score at all. And it's just... sure, maybe that funky score, if it came in, it would just strip the scene of its tension. Maybe that's why it's not there. But I just love the score so much that just across the board, I wanted more score. Entirely.
More score. That should be basically the subline of this episode. More score.
More score.
As the founding fathers of America said, more score and 7 kills ago.
Oh, God.
So, 2 yays, a slay. Maybe another rating. Let's go over the horrific hotline where we actually have Gill. She couldn't make it tonight. She said, you know what? Every once in a while, I gotta let the boys be the boys. And she did leave her thoughts on this. So I figure let's start off with Gill, giving us her thoughts on Tenebrae.
Hey guys, it's Gill with my rating on Dario Argento's 1982 film Tenebrae, which I accidentally wrote Tenebrae on my paper, and I decided to keep it as the title, and I think it's fitting. So my only other experience with Dario Argento is Suspiria, which I hadn't seen until kind of recently, like within the last year, and it quickly became one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I've been antsy to watch another film of his. So thank you, Mike, for this pick. Sad I couldn't be there, but I'm sure you guys will have a wonderful discussion. So
we didn't discuss any
had
themes.
High standards going into this, with Suspiria on a pedestal. So this wasn't to me as good as Suspiria, but it was still very idiosyncratic of Argento's style, with the colors that are kind of turned up and highly saturated, the white and the red of the lipstick, the red of the blood, the red of the high heels, and all the women wearing
heels, the lipstick,
white.
Yep.
I really like that. Of course, the banger soundtrack
obviously
didn't disappoint, and the kills. The kills are usually my favorite part of an Argento film, and they didn't disappoint in Tenebrae. Some of my favorite kills are the first kill of Elsa. I love the setup and the payoff of that one. It's everything I want in an Argento film. The shoplifting of a paperback novel, being caught, getting out of the punishment with sex and
I love
bribery,
that.
and then getting off scot-free and just getting away with a motorcycle that's waiting. And then getting assaulted by a homeless man and then brutally murdered. I thought it was just such a great setup and payoff. Apart from that, I love the kind of flashy shots layered over with that 80s music, and just, the artful slashes and stabbings, the papers of a novel being torn out and stuffed into Elsa's mouth as she's getting murdered. I thought it was brilliant. And then you cut to the scene of another woman calling the Tenebrae novel sexist, which I thought was also genius. I really liked the beach sequence, the surreal music, the sex and the violence, the color and style, and the power with the heel in the man's mouth. And honestly, it brought me right back to Maxine, and I can definitely see the inspiration of Maxine, of Tenebrae and Maxine is what I meant to say. There's just so many great scenes, and I thought it was a lovely little movie, but doesn't quite sit up there with my love for Suspiria. So it's a yay for me, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Tens of Bay in the movie. Agreed. Tens of Bay.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I think she essentially had a lot of similar points. Like, all of us, I think, prefer Suspiria, is what we said when we were actually reviewing the movie. And I cackled at the pages turning in the middle of that. You could just tell that she had it all written out, and she's like, all right.
Yeah.
Mike, you work at a bookstore. Have you ever caught a shoplifter stealing a paperback and then have been propositioned for sex in order to get them out of the crime?
So I need to say this because I was going to mention this. No, I was actually no. This is actually like apropos of not that.
Yeah.
I was going to mention this earlier in the episode. I had a note and I kind of like skipped over and forgot. But I was when we were talking about like the mystery and stuff like that, I was going to ask you guys because I remembered this time because I literally saw this for the first time like a million years ago, and I kind of forgot what I thought of it the first time. And then when I was watching it this time, for some reason, all of a sudden it snapped in my memory that for like 20 minutes at least, I thought the killer was going to be the department store manager that caught her, because she made a very specific show of saying her exact address and stuff.
True.
And then she goes home and gets murdered. And so I was like, oh my God, what if it was the guy from the store? And we forget about that by the end of it, and then he just never appears again.
You would need the big like Saw flashback to reseed that into the audience's mind at the end of the movie. You'd have the goblin score like swelling.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that'd be great.
I just want to be like, did anybody else think that, or was that just my weirdo brain? Because I was
didn't think that.
I was
but
like,
I kind of like that. Yeah.
I like to think about chapters adopting this policy for shoplifters, where they just show up to your house and murder you brutally for it. I was questioning more so Gill seemed perfectly okay about this transaction for books, and she gets a lot of books, so I'm a little worried now how she's paying for all these books. Hopefully
she's got to keep up with her habits somehow.
So thanks Gill for at least calling in and giving us your thoughts and aligning with me and Colton's only Mike, the outlier of this episode so far. So, next up we have, as always, Nicholas called in and gave us his thoughts. So let's hear what he has to say.
Okay, so I rewatched Tenebrae, which at least earlier was one of my favorite Dario Argento movies. And I have to say, I haven't rewatched many of his movies in recent years. Therefore, it still is. I think it is a fantastic movie. It is, not the straightest of stories, and it's all over the place, but that kind of what makes Dario Argento's giallos the way they are. It's not up there with Suspiria, which is probably my favorite Argento movie. And I did a double feature with Phenomena, which I have to say really grew on me in the recent years and is now a little bit above Tenebrae. But still, there are some really violent and shocking death scenes. They are gory as hell. There is this scene where a person's arm gets cut off, and I think I haven't seen that much blood since someone's arm got cut off in Kill Bill or something. So it is great. There are some really
which I think was a
interesting,
reference to that,
cool
by the
shots. I think that Argento, who was kind of an inspiration for Brian De Palma, at this point has seen a lot of Brian De Palma movies in return, and kind of tries to influence his movies in that way. Or at least that is my theory.
I see Dressed to Kill in this movie.
It is a fun watch. I'm going to give it a strong yay, bordering under slay. But since my double feature with Phenomena, and I'd give that one a slay, I think I have to bump it down for now, though I am now back on a Dario Argento train.
Yes!
So let's see what other movies are out there that I haven't rewatched in a hot minute. And speaking about rewatching, I do have a short revision for my Lost World: Jurassic Park review, if there's still time. because it did make me rewatch Jurassic Park yet again. And since I watched Jurassic Park, I immediately rewatched The Lost World. And that speaks for the movie. And despite all my criticism I have for the movie, and despite Jurassic Park being way better, I think I'd even bump that one up to a strong yay as well.
Hey, here we go.
What the fuck?
Get some Argento or maybe overall some Giallo in the future as well. And I'm really looking forward to that episode.
Listen, if I have to suffer through some Giallo talk, I'm just happy to have it ended with Jurassic Park talk.
I was going to say I saw...
And don't worry, you will get more from me as long as I have breath in my fucking body.
Jurassic Park, go for it, dude. We got the third one coming on.
No.
I was going to say, I know Nicholas wrote in his email because he said he forgot to put it in his voicemail just for Mike. He said he wanted to let you know that Dario Argento's costume design is always somewhere between weird as fuck and chef's kiss.
Yep, you're right. Both of those polls are things I like. So,
as a side note, Nicholas, do you have a letterbox? If not, you should get one. It seems like you're watching.
Yeah, you watch a lot of movies.
Yeah, just check it out if you haven't already. I don't need to be out here being the ambassador for Letterboxd, but I love scrolling through, seeing what people think of different movies.
Yeah, really.
Oh my god, me too. Especially since you kind of forced me to use it a bit more, or encouraged me, I guess I should say. And then I was like, I'll pay for it, and that'll shamed me.
Shamed you on the show, and then eventually
there
was, I think it was the Black Friday sale or something that.
I was like, fuck it, I got to do it.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, well, I mean, I paid for it, so I got to make sure that I'm using it all the time. It's fun. I actually love looking at people's lists and stuff.
Yeah.
Of themed, whatever. A lot of them are just every horror movie made in 1981 to 5, and it's literally 15,000. I'm like, okay, that's nice, but I like when people have little I like when people have little niche lists, especially someone like me that likes weird niche movies 90s made for TV movies, and then there'll be people who have a list about banger Lifetime thrillers, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna get some ideas from this.
Yeah, it's right up
so
your alley.
Get Letterboxd, Nicholas, you should.
And just because, I'm that type of way tonight, I got to switch it up a bit before we get into something, because I totally forgot to do the what do you guys think?
Well, I was actually just about to ask you, did we have any responses?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did. I totally forgot it, so we'll tag it on the end of this one. So we did ask you. We had 2 people write in, so I didn't want to forget about them. It was both on Slasher. And they were quite short, quite simple. Southside Sully wrote with a simple slay. That was all they said. Yep. Capital letters. Yep. And then another one, Raul Duke, like the name, shout out, also just said slay.
Nice.
So obviously, a lot of love. And I noticed on Slasher, there's a lot of loves on the Tenebrae picture and stuff. So obviously people just, love seeing stuff about Tenebrae.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to let us know your thoughts on our socials or go like pictures of Tenebrae, you can do so. We're at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok. I don't know. There's probably a couple others, but if we're on there, we're there at It Slays Podcast. And similarly, so that's how you can get us your voicemails and whatnot, like Nicholas. Just basically send us an MP3, some sort of audio file, and we'll make sure that it makes the air. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Gill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, is there already Tenebrae on the playlist?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to have to add
there needs to be.
Do I just add the entire thing on? Just whatever there is, just it's all going on. So
get some Goblin music on there, and then you can get some more Troll and Troll 2 music on there. That would be great.
Exactly. I mean, I should just get rid of everything, and it's just Goblin and Trolls.
That'd be perfect. Now, that's a list that I should get to making.
But you can hear all this at the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, You can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned, go in the bio, click the Linktree link. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So follow it. We update it regularly, and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And I thought I was going to have more promo to do this, but then I realized this was going to come out later. So, like I said, we're going to be sponsoring the Evil Dead event that's, tomorrow when we're recording this. So I'll already have gone to it. But, yeah, I'll keep you updated for the next showing. And I know we have people that listen and have, followed us on social media and stuff from those events. So, yeah. If you see me, I'm always at them, so you can, be like, hey, man, you guys keep giving away shirts, and I keep getting shirts. Stop giving me shirts. But we have movies
or
and
say,
stuff.
hey, man, I don't like that you referred to those people as hillbillies on that one episode.
But I am very happy for you to come up and say, hey, man, Lost World, just a banger. Just a banger. But with that, all that is left is to announce the upcoming episode. And it's Jill's pick, and Jill left us a lovely message to announce her pick.
So the next pick is going to be George A. Romero's 1982 Creepshow.
Nice.
I've never seen it before, and I've been waiting to pick it for the show. So I think it'll be really special as a first watch. And also to talk about it, since me and Rowan have our show on Stream Screams, where we review the Shudder exclusive God damn it. Cut this part out.
Don't cut it out.
On Stream Screams, me and Rowan, we review episodes of the Shudder exclusive show, Creepshow, and I've always wanted to watch the movie. And so I think it's the perfect time to do it. Also, it's been a while since we did an anthology movie.
Yes.
So I think it's time. So yeah, I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. All right. See you guys on the next one.
Yeah, I think this is shade coming to me, because sitting on my table is my my Blu-ray Scream Factory copy that I told her she could have because I upgraded the 4K, and I still haven't sent her stuff out yet, just because it keeps amassing bigger and bigger. And she's like, "When are you gonna send that?" And I'm like, "I'm getting to it." And
soon it's going to be a whole cargo crate of unopened Blu-rays.
Essentially, that's what it's turning into.
Listen, I'm just happy that we don't have to watch Tusk. I was genuinely worried that was her next pick. And
she, I will say, when she announced in the group text that it was Tusk, she immediately wrote me and was like, "I wonder how long I can make Colton sweat this one out." And
I was sitting here all episode. I didn't I had the MP3s there. I didn't preview it. I was so worried.
She thought maybe that would be the end of you. You would just quit all of a sudden if it was
if
Tusk.
we were doing Tusk, I don't think I'd be here next episode. Just I'd be busy. I'd find a reason to be busy.
But yeah, so get Creepshow into your eye holes, and we will be back in 2 weeks talking about that. As always, thank you for all the support. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And I'm Colton.
See you later.